Mike Waddell did the last MetaZoo Hour he's going to do this year, so let's break it down and see what we learn. Hello and welcome, my name is Turmentic, and today we're going to cover, like I said, the MetaZoo Hour that took place September 18th. Mike was saying it was going to be his last one of the year, but at the beginning of the MetaZoo Hour, he actually says, MetaZoo Hour begins now. Ask me anything in my last MetaZoo Hour before CCE, President of Fun, Andy, our new president, takes over the Q&As. So that's interesting because that means that Mike actually is going to step away from the MetaZoo Hours, it looks like, and Andy's going to take them over. Later on in the, we actually do find out that Mike said he will make guest appearances, he will jump in and actually answer lore questions and stuff like that. But that's I guess, one of Andy's new responsibilities, or one of the new tasks that Andy has now being president of MetaZoo, is that he will take over the Q&As. So we got a bunch of funny ones, but we also have some really serious ones. The first question was from Happy Kitty 05. What caster in MetaZoo lore has contracted a Tallybones? And Mike responds with a man in a cabin making a stew. Bissell Taurus. Mike, socks and sandals, yes or no? Mike responds with only if Crocs are sandals. MetaZool asks, Mini Squonk when? And Mike responds with, he's already in your pocket, which is true because I know a lot of you in the community actually have pocket squonks. BG Paints asks, when Arby's? And Mike responds with soon, but why stop there? Metaversity Jason asks, will we see other licensing of IPs like Hello Kitty in 2024, or will Hello Kitty become a staple in MetaZoo? Mike responds with, while we don't want to become another type of popular TCG that utilizes multiple IPs a year rather than focusing on its own IP, Hello Kitty is such an amazing partner, and I anticipate having a long and bright future collaborating with them, especially as we move more into Japan with Legacy and Yokai. Personally, I really like that. I like the idea of not overburdening the MetaZoo universe with other IPs, especially while it's still in its infancy right now, especially since it's pre-IP. I love that he is open to the idea of actually including other IPs into the MetaZoo universe eventually down the line, but I mean, he's referencing pretty much Magic the Gathering and Universes Beyond, where they'll have like 2 or 3 crossovers a year that enter the Magic universe, and as it does bring in other players, it does bring in some new players, a little bit of collectors. I like, though, that MetaZoo wants to focus on its specific IP. Andrew Stacks asks, any update on native streamer kits? Mike responds with, these are stopped out by one item and we are working diligently to get them out soon. Cannot wait for my streamer kit. T-Will Bag asks, can you give us any hints about the classified pages, talking about the UFO mini set that was released about a month ago or so for pre-orders, which has just started shipping. I've seen a lot of people actually talking about that, receiving shipping notifications. But Mike responds with, sorry, that's above my security clearance. SJC Collectibles asks, with Andy taking over more day-to-day operations and you focusing on the larger direction and vision of the company, what are you most excited to share with this community? Mike responds with, my world building. And this is something that, again, I'm very passionate about. I love the MetaZoo lore. I love the universe that Mike is actually creating. So I like that Andy is actually getting to take over some of these responsibilities to allow Mike actually more creative freedom, more time to actually work on the world building and the universe of MetaZoo. Big Albor asks, any chance at player packs for LGSs to give out? I'm assuming he's actually talking about tournaments, other things like that. And we've heard a little bit about him before in the past. Mike responds with, working on this, should be out soon. TCG Experience says, Native Revive, Hello Kitty Revive, and any chance we get to see Sam Sinclair card in the upcoming set. MetaZoo responds with, we are taking a break from skateboards for now, maybe in a few years. Don Juan asks, could we possibly see an open world game of MetaZoo based off the storyline of the comics/books in the years to come? And Mike responds with, this is my dream. I think it would be really interesting to have some sort of a game about MetaZoo that's open world, very similar to like maybe a combination of World of Warcraft meets Hogwarts Legacy. I think that would be really, really neat, especially if you can explore the different areas. You could actually have specific events that coincide with the storyline, the main lore of the actual universe itself too. So I'm excited to see if in the future something like this can actually come into fruition. Ben Gibson asks, any other cool festivals like Mothman Fest that you plan to hold events at? Mike responds with, next year we will be focusing more heavily on Cryptid festivals and Comic-Con and less on things like a Collecticon, which I believe we will be discontinuing our presence at. Now, they did not actually make a presence at the Charlotte Collecticon that happened the same weekend as Mothman, so that could be a precursor to them, like he said, exiting the Collecticon circuit and actually focusing more on the bigger cons, San Diego, New York, things like that. Pee-wees asks, how is the MetaZoo novel coming along? Last we heard it may be releasing in the fall with a limited cover edition. Would love to curl up in front of a fireplace and read it during winter. Mike responds with, trying to balance book releases with manga releases. I'm thinking books should come first, but happy to hear opinions. I responded to Mike about my opinion about the book, and I said that either or, honestly, as long as we get more of the main storyline and that the lore can come out, that's all that really matters. And Mike responded with, the books would let me dive much deeper into lore and detail, but the manga would lend itself more to mass market, commercialization, and a faster path to an anime. He's divided. Metaversity Jason asks, can we get a developer API for the card database? Mike says, that's a great question for cardio. I think they have a list of triage items to focus on in the coming months, and setting up an API pipeline might not be at the top of the list for the rest of the year. Now that's because, if you don't know, Cardio is the one that's actually developing the online client. We actually got to see it for the first time at Dark Tower. There is a alpha demo that you can go and watch on the channel. I go through 2 games, actually talking to Chris, CEO of Cardio, along with Bats, who is the lead game designer. MetaZoo asks, any more bronze, silver, gold medals going to be announced? And Mike says yes. Next question was, can you share a hint for what to anticipate from MetaZoo at New York Comic Con? Mike says it's going to be way bigger than you know. Andy is insane but a genius. DPT19 says, are the fan art blisters going to start being out by the end of the month based off the last update? And Mike says they should be. Dragon's Nest of Dice asks, any way we could do a school club program? Would love to start MetaZoo in our esports room at the school I work at. Mike responds with, working on this, and this is exciting because that means that there would actually be support for school groups. Actually, that's super cool in my opinion. Doc asks, do you think the medal winners will get special consideration when looking for online client testers? And Mike says, they are mutually exclusive, but I would imagine there is crossover given how many recipients are also active players. MetaZoologist Florida asks, will you offer signed cards on the MetaZoo marketplace for those of us who can't get out to you? And Mike says, I believe I'm doing one more signing event and then we'll hold off signing cards for several years. If I had to take a guess, I would say the last event that he's going to be signing cards at most likely is going to be New York Comic Con, but we'll have to wait and actually see what he says. Scaly Schisms asks, is there plans for another art contest? And Mike says, of course. Ben Gibson asks, what's your favorite feature of the online client? And Mike says, the sound so far, but there's so much more to be excited for. We didn't actually get to hear any of the sounds at the alpha test that we got to do at the Dark Tower, so I'm very excited. Wild Hobby asks, towers for 2024 or something else? And Mike says, towers will continue in 2024. Now, we don't know if they're going to be the same ones, if they're going to actually swap them out, if we'll have the same ones plus new ones. We're not entirely sure what the tower circuit's going to be, but if it's based off of anything like this year, it's going to be just as insane, and I cannot wait. MetaZoo Collector asks, Mike, for the competitive players wanting to book flights and with the possibility of some rounds being online, what days do you suggest we, the players, physically be in New York for Collecticon? And Mike says, I would wait until you get into Top Cut if money is tight, unless you want to come to New York Comic Con for all the amazing exclusives at our booth. Now, we're not entirely sure how that's going to work. We should be getting an update sometime, hopefully, I think by the end of this week. But it sounds to me like some of the rounds are going to be played on the online client. Maybe only the top 32 event is actually going to be in person at the con, but we're going to have to just wait until we actually get more further detail because, like I said, there hasn't really been anything that's been concrete or confirmed. James Jams actually follows up with, so Top Cut is decided before the in-person event. And Mike says, that's the plan, but news will be coming out regarding that soon. Again, we don't really know a lot of the info, so I would not jump to conclusions, and I would wait until an official announcement is actually posted before you try to figure out exactly what you're going to do and what your plans for Caster Cup are. Nexogen asks, any new clothing line coming out soon? Hoodies. And Mike says, this has been a hot topic in our internal discussion. Love the wordplay right there. I think MetaZoo would do really well if it was to actually sell in Hot Topic. I'm assuming that's what that comment meant as well too. I mean, I could see so many t-shirts, hoodies, sweatshirts, all sorts of different stuff being sold in that store, so that's really exciting if that's in the works. Don Juan asks, are the MetaZoo Marketplace packs still available for every $20 you spend in the MetaZoo Marketplace or in your orders? And Mike says, I believe a new round of these are coming out soon. That doesn't really fully answer if Wave 1 is finished completely or if they're about to finish Wave 1 to do Wave 2, but that does mean that we should be getting Wave 2 sometime soon. Now, one of my favorite questions asked, of course, is from my man, the Demon Fergus. He says, will the SCP set still happen or is it getting pushed since the Hello Kitty set is now the Halloween set? And Mike says, it is still happening, just not this year. And this is honestly what I've been saying now for ever since they actually announced Legacy, and we weren't sure exactly what was going on with War and everything. Because SCP, especially if it is set before the Veil Shattered, that can come out literally at any time. We could be well into Yokai, and SCP set would still make sense lore-wise. So I'm excited they're still keeping it. I'm excited we're actually going to get it next year. And to be honest with you, it makes sense for them to push it off when they had the opportunity to work with Sanrio, because the Hello Kitty collaboration is going to be the biggest thing, honestly, that MetaZoo's ever done. Tuffy asks, any news on the arcade game? And Mike says, yes, being tested right now. And again, this is really exciting to me too, because the goal is for these games to actually be sent out to arcades, like real arcades, to brick and mortar LGSs, and you're supposed to be able to use your MetaZoo coins, like your MetaZoo coins that you get from your blisters and your spellbooks. You're supposed to be able to use those in order to play the game, and it will actually spit out a promo card depending on how well you actually do. I'm really hoping that we actually get one over at Super Galactic Games and Comics. Taylor asks, are you still planning to send the MetaZoo fan art submission cards back to us with that special card stamp as previously communicated? And Mike says yes, as soon as the blisters start going out. Joe asks, will you be able to earn ELO on the new client? It's hard up here in Alaska to earn ELO. And Mike says yes. And that's really cool in my opinion, because that means that you'll be able to use the online client in order to improve your rank. Now, we don't know if it's going to be a separate rank from like in-person events and other things like that. Like there might be one rank actually for in-person events, there might be another rank for the online client, but I love the fact that you can actually use the online client to actually get ELO points. TCG Experience asks, will the code cards be redeemable for PAX Beasties on the online client? Which set will they be coming out with? Mike responds with yes, Legacy this December. That was Mike confirming that Legacy has been pushed back till December. That makes sense, honestly, if you think about it, because of the collaboration with Hello Kitty. It does. Hello Kitty is the second largest franchise in the world. They had an opportunity to work with them. San Diego Comic-Con proved how big the collaboration could actually be, so it makes sense to me why they actually pushed Legacy back to December. PokeTime asks, will the printing plates for sets ever be made available to purchase? Mike says no, they are an important part to R&D, but it's a really cool idea. Ben Gibson asks, any more MetaZoo road trips with Ted planned? And Mike says, of course. I really hope that they actually make another road trip stops on the way to New York Comic Con. I really hope that the trailer is actually going to make it way up there. I know too that hopefully that after New York Comic Con is over, they actually might have a little bit of downtime. It depends again too. We don't know how the tower circuit for 2024 is going to shape up, but it'd be really cool if they actually took some of the later months of this year to actually do the road trip around the country. Next question was, will you guys begin to start a higher print run for the next couple of sets? Or are you going to keep it at the same levels as Native and as Seance? And Mike says, keeping it capped at those levels. Now the next one wasn't really a question, it was more of a statement, but I wanted to make sure I read actually what Mike said because I loved his response. The question was, why did Legacy and Hello Kitty come out of nowhere and seems like it caused delays? Mike responded with, Seven Seas was slated for next summer, so no delay there. Legacy was worked on since spring, and of course Hello Kitty came as an opportunity and we jumped on it. We announced it 2 months before release like most TCGs. We are trying to follow this model from now on rather than giving spoilers 6 to 12 months in advance. That's generally how long these things take to work on, like the Arby's collab. But then when it doesn't come out immediately, people complain. So we will be employing a strategy of announcing closer to actual release dates from this point on. Dan asks, box toppers again? Possibly? Mike says, yes, but sparingly. If everything is special, nothing is. Now, I do remember from a previous MetaZoo Hour him actually saying that the next time we'll get box toppers most likely is going to be Yokai base set. So it's probably going to be at least another solid year before we get them in a core set. Now, saying that, they have before done special collabs with like eBay Wilderness, for example, and there were box toppers in those. But it is, like he said, very sparingly. They don't do them with every set. Solid Dante asks, where is the Ghost Train love? And Mike says Chapter 18. Abyssal Aturis asks, new aura type still planned for Yokai? Wind? Mike says wind is coming, yes. Dad Hat asks, so moving forward, are you a cryptid that only a few people will see in blurry pictures? Or will you be attending any events next year? Mike says, I'll be at the Comic Cons and maybe some festivals. Jack asks, why are there no Korumi spellbooks or theme decks if it's a core set? Mike says a core set is designated by the presence of a booster box, not a spellbook. which is why no one has any problem saying Legacy is not a core set since it only features a spellbook and blisters. Andy4421 says, a native pin club coming? Revive? When? Mike says, we'll be taking a break from pin club collabs for the next few years. So it's not just skateboards that we're actually taking a break from, it's also going to be the pin clubs as well. Zakakarp says, I think I remember you saying there will be new rules for this year's fan art contest. What will those be? And Mike says, age limit. Gumby101 asks, will attending past towers be the only way to be able to play in Caster's Cup? And Mike says, every player will be able to attend the first rounds through the TCG client so long as they are signed up on the MPN, I believe. And again, we don't fully know exactly how that's going to work. They have been alluding, like I said, the first couple rounds being on the TCG client, but nothing's been officially said yet. Abyssal Taurus says, did Hefty ever reach out to you about the MetaZoo pals? They'd be foolish not to be honest. They were adorable. And Mike says, working on it. Epic Tube says, will in-person towers continue next year, or is it Cryptid Clash for the future? Mike says, good question, we will have to see. I kind of like the idea of doing a year of Cryptid Clash towers to really break it in. Now, he did not say that the in-person tower events wouldn't actually happen if the Cryptid Clash events actually took place as well. So we could potentially have 4 or 5 towers of in-person events and then maybe 4 or 5 towers of online client events as well too, which I love that idea. Captain Asia asks, will there be any events in Japan for the release of Yokai Island? And Mike says, of course. And then Dad Hat says, will there be any events in the USA for the release of Yokai Island? And Mike says, yup. Metazak asks, will you do guest Ask Me Anythings from time to time in the future, or is this the last time? And Mike says, oh, I'm sure I'll do some in the future. Our history is going to be very long. Coop on the Sticks asks, Top Sapphire coming soon? And Mike says, working on it. Whatever Nero asks, which block do you believe will truly change the game state and or make the way players perceive the game with upcoming story events and as more opportunities become more available? Mike says, every block and indeed every set is an opportunity to do this. Since we don't implement rotation in our meta, doing major changes to gameplay just because a new block comes out isn't conducive to this format. However, I do believe we will try to simplify cards moving forward without sacrificing the complexity of the game. The simplification on each individual card will lower the barrier to entry, and the synergy between cards will increase compensating for this solid decrease in individual complexity. We got some really good information from that though. Like Mike was saying about the book, like he's torn between the book or the manga, which means that they have to be kind of close to either or, to be honest with you. On top of that, we actually did get confirmation that Legacy is going to be released in early December. We still don't really know exactly how the Caster Cup pre-qualifiers are going to work, the Caster Cup Top 32, but I'm fully confident we'll get some sort of an update by the end of this week. We found out that they plan on taking a break from doing the Revive skateboards along with the Pin Club collaborations as well, but we also kind of got a little bit of a tease that the Hello Kitty collab is actually going to get even bigger. Let me know down in the comments what you're most excited for from what we found out with this MetaZoo Hour, and I'm excited actually for Andy to take them over because yeah, I'm excited. But like I said, my name is Turmentic. I hope you have a wonderful evening, and as always, have a good night.